and welcome to the show. We start this week's FailRace episode with Danger Man on GTA 5. Now, this was during a test we were doing on the straight line race. We're seeing what happens with go-karts. And while the racing wasn't great, you could turn out to launch a go-kart randomly off the floor and blow up your competitors. Yes, that was Danger Man managing to take out two other carts soaring through the air and exploding. That is an impressive jump. That was an impressive jump indeed. Now, it's not just the go-karts that could get caught on the floor, although slightly less spectacular, I will say, on this one, trying to get some wheelies going with the Buffalo of some sort, I think this one is. I don't know all the new GTA cars. Either way, the wheelie's starting to look good, catches something on the floor and just gets snapped back down towards the ground. Yeah, sometimes ground hitboxes will ruin your fun. Train Guy up next on GTA 5 has got one of the kind of Mad Max, Death Racy, ridiculous armoured trucks driving around. Police are after them, but it's an AI car that spawns in and for seemingly no reason decides to do a 360 in the middle of the road and drive off. I don't know, because the player wasn't even anywhere close. Keep an eye on the distance, the black cars on the left-hand side of the screen when it flicks back forward again. I think it manages to, always duplicate a spawn or spawns a car inside another, but they separate, and I can't figure out why it decided to just spin around and carried on surprisingly well. Timmy is up next on GTA San Andreas. Now, they've gone AFK slightly and left, I presume it's their vehicle parked up in front on the side of the road. It might not be, it might just be an AI car parked. Either way, complete chaos is going on at this junction, and the player has nothing to do with it. The player's not even there, as cars are managing to crash into each other. There's a bike driven through a signpost. One car's kind of figured it out by going a weird long way around, but that's completely wrecked itself. More vehicles are turning up to get confused by this mess as the player comes back. Then a gunfight is going to start in all of this. I guess some of the different gangs started getting annoyed at each other, and sure enough, player having nothing to do with this weird moment at a junction. I don't know whether maybe the train crossing caused some problems. Yeah, AIs are quirky sometimes. Invisible Lake up next on Horizon 5. Now, this was during Hunt the Survivors, trying to chase down the Ferrari 575, and wasn't the best pieces of driving we've ever seen from Chris. As my Jag is closing in, goes to brake to let me go past, so I shoot past and spin around. The problem is, Chris uses too much throttle, spins the Ferrari. Could have recovered it maybe had it gone straight forward, but tries to spin it around again, goes for a second spin before getting tagged. Not the best piece of driving ever from Chris in that one. Thomas up next on Horizon 5 is doing a high-speed run with a quad-rotor MX-5 going along at, 220 miles an hour, as you do. Heading around a corner, sees an AI car at the last second, can't really avoid it properly. Amazingly, manages to not hit anything despite throwing the MX-5 off the road at pretty much 220 miles an hour. So he goes to turn into this corner on the run, sees the AI sort of traffic car too late, goes to correct it, but at these speeds that's, has a big impact and somehow slides between the buildings. We're talking millimetres away from that building. Gets a bonus board as well, sliding through there. Significant yeet up next on Cyberpunk has called in their vehicle, and as is tradition in Cyberpunk, this is really difficult, getting cars to turn up. This one has driven off, but not only has it driven off, it's then crashed into a bunch of scenery. It's going to turn around to try and get back to the player and crash into a bunch more scenery, taken out a cactus and broken the car. It's now going to freak out going left and right incredibly viciously and spin around and nearly run the player over. No, we're not finished crashing in to the lamppost. There goes the bonnet and some of the doors. In fact, almost all of the doors, and then the last one's gone with that clonk. And finally, it comes to a rest. I mean, there's one brake light and the boot left, and that's it. I would want a new delivery service at that point. Crash Dip is up next on ReqFest. Now, they were testing out their vehicle and wanted to murder an AI car to see what would happen. However, the AI car had the last laugh. It was a good attempt at a torpedo, but I think because the truck was so close to the wall already, all the energy went back through the player car, and they were the one that came off way worse. Crypto Knights up next on F1 2020, doing a best Lando Norris impression in a wet spa, and that's straight up into the wall. It's almost a carbon copy of the actual crash that he suffered. Was it last year? Possibly. But it's not just the Formula 1 cars that have problems in Spa at the wet. No, on Gran Turismo Sport, we have a GT car going backwards. I love that it gets a penalty for having a tremendous accident and then can't get going again because it's on a very slippery, very steep part of the track. Yeah, I love the 1.5 second penalty for managing to drop it at Eau Rouge and going backwards into the tyre punch. It's not what the Audi was wanting. Let's be honest, we've got the outside view as well. Yeah, just gets it wrong, gets a bit of oversteer, just out of position, can't gather up in time, slides backwards and smacks into the wall, and then struggles to set off again. You know, that corner's always a challenge. Very easy to make big mistakes in the wet through that one. It does eventually get going on the hill. Finally, we have got a Zack Attack on beam. Now, they've got a crazy, ridiculously modified pickup truck here that, as you can see, is capable of unbelievable speeds. I think they're testing it to see how fast it can go. You know, we're well over 300 mile an hour at this point. In all the actual speedo, there's an air speedo that's more accurate towards more the middle of the screen. I mean, this thing is flying along. We're at 350, nearly 360 miles an hour when everything goes wrong. And as it's bumping about slightly, the front tyre explodes. Now, this is bad when you're at 360 miles an hour, amazingly. Because, well, I say because, I mean, there are trees it could have hit, but amazingly, the way the tyre let go, the position on the road and where it was, it's slowed down to about 70 miles an hour when it does finally wrap itself around a tree. That is the luckiest 360 mile an hour crash I think I've ever seen when you're driving on what is essentially a normal road. That's, yeah, that is one lucky pickup truck. But, there we go. That is going to be it for this video. As ever, if you have clips you'd like to submit to this series, you can via a Google form. There'll be a link to it in the description. All the rules and how it works can be found on there. That, though, is going to be it from me. Thank you all very much for watching, and until next time, a goodbye.